be a toad, I can't tell. So if you can't understand me, we can use sign language, but I'll try. Okay. Um,
Wow.
so that is part of the alignment, synchronicity, and apparent phenomena of today's topic, which is really going to be an exploration. It'll be a discussion and a discovery for all of us. So it'll be talking and questioning and exploring.
Before we dive in, I want to thank all of you who sent incredible, I'm going to say, observations and sharings to info at Harry. Thank you so much. We really appreciated it, enjoyed what you wrote and the sharing of yet another level of your story. All of you, just know that these conversations are kind of flowing through us, and we are so welcoming to anything that impacted you, or you had a different point of view on, or whatever it may be. Cecilia has been steadfast to make sure we get things that we have time to read. And so take those sharings and feel free to bring them in, if you're comfortable, to the RLC page, post, video share. Really, that is what that private group is about. Very shortly, we're going to be opening a public page, and that will be a very different environment from our private environment. So just know, no one is able to read those sharings other than those of us in this group of friends that are a part of these conversations. So in that, and in the spirit of that, alignment, synchronicity, and phenomena are three concepts that often we find ourselves speaking about, having what we'll say the experience of as these concepts have been described to us. Alignment has so many different linear ways that it can be understood, as well as synchronicity and certainly phenomena. But our objective today is to explore them in relation to, again, energy, light, and information, which is how we experience reconnective healing. I think we've been
There's right. They have an overlap that really is integral. I think you'll find that truly none of these three exist without the other two. And their presence is greatly enhanced because of that.
Yeah. So let's just for a moment. Yeah, Cece, go ahead and put up. We're going to have 3 slides. 2 of them will be diagrams, but for this first one, we just want to take in the understanding of alignment as we consider it to be a very important access point, instant access point to information. So this is just a statement to consider.
Yeah, and since the font is a little small, I'll read it to you. It says, our interaction with the RH intelligence opens a different way of acquiring information, one that does not require controlled learning or mind processing, often allowing us to move past the pressure of trying to be right and into knowing in a state of presence that we are.
And for the purposes, I think, of our new book is almost in its final pages of line editing, and the RH intelligence itself really should be understood as energy, light, and information. This is going to take it out of, again, this duality space of it being something separate. So energy, light, and information, God, love, for the universe, whichever way you wish to refer to this that we call the is how we experience reconnective healing. So
And I think the reason that we use these many different words is because it can't be confined into any one word. And furthermore, human beings tend to attach baggage to some words as being more acceptable or less acceptable to them. So, for that reason, we like to be able to describe it in that openness that is inviting and welcoming to everyone and excludes absolutely no one. Um, Alignment is very interesting because alignment is what allows for transformation and healing. And I think that's very key. With alignment, we can choose to participate in the conscious experience of transformation and flow. And this can be truly very rewarding, but it actually isn't necessary in the RH experience. But we're going to come back to that in a little bit.
So let's look at one of the, we'll say, a common understanding of what we might call flow factors. And I'm going to ask Cece to bring this diagram in. We're going to look at the idea of flow factors so that there is a little frame to consider how, in the more linear way, we perceive or absorb what we'll refer to as alignment. And in the RH language, we'll say the information. So let's just pop through 6 factors of flow. There's a little visual. And again, don't get too caught up on the words. We're just creating the more uh, mental life understanding.
I think it's important, though, to look at some of it because, again, this is a perfect example of how words don't always
Sure.
convey. So the first factor says intense and focused concentration on the present moment. Now, that can seem like work. Intensity can seem like attachment, a sort of a attention that doesn't allow for flow. Yet, this is a different level of intensity where you enter into it. I get a visual for those of you who remember record albums, vinyl, or who have rediscovered them, of it's when the needle lands perfectly in the groove and then it begins to flow in that present moment. It's a merging of action and awareness, which is a beautiful balance. And you see, where intensity can sometimes make you think of being strongly concentrated, it's really, as point 3 says, a loss of reflective self consciousness. So, alignment in itself, we're viewing it as flow. Um, Interesting, they say a sense of personal control or agency over the situation or activity. Now, there's control, and then there's being in a controlled state. It's different than being controlling, and it's sort of something you have to feel to really grasp. Anytime you've been in flow, you know there's no fear of loss of autonomy or control, and yet it's not a feeling of a controllingness.
Well, the 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 way a sense of personal control, I think we are using in this, is it is a sensation. And for those of you who run, I surf, as you know, paint, play an instrument, there is a sensorial sense, if you will, of when we say control or agency. I like the word agency. It is the composite or the the space of over the situation. And remember, all activity is experience. So we could really reduce a lot of these ways that we describe things and just, again, put it into, we have a sense of experience, of a deep experience or connectedness in that way.
And I think we're going to open up and make new discoveries by more consciously exploring this. Because as we look at alignment, synchronicity, and phenomena, and look at some of the words, the meanings, or just what we think of as neutral definitions, we're going to find some interesting distortion or prejudice or judgment in some of these words. For example, the fifth factor of flow here says a distortion of temporal experience. One's subjective experience of time is altered. But is it a distortion? Or is what we spend most of our time in the distortion? And is that, a more true understanding of it? Or is there a balance to it? And neither is a distortion of one another. So, yes, one's subjective experience of time as we are used to spending the majority of it can feel altered. But what is actually the distortion? Um, Next, the experience of the activity as intrinsically rewarded. Also, the experience of the activity is intrinsically rewarding, which it is, also referred to as an autotelic experience. Now, by the way, I want to go back to the discussion on the fifth point. This information is very accurate, but the words that were given to convey it carry their own baggage. So, in linear language, sometimes we have to look or feel, otherwise grasp the meaning that may be behind the words, or may require us to look at the word underneath the baggage it's often covered with. Sometimes we're looking at at um, the packages being carried, and we're missing the gorgeous mule that may be carrying it.
You can see the source of this. Anyway, let's go on. See if we can take this slide away. What we want you to consider here in the nature of alignment, in and within the nature of alignment lives the beauty of information, and it is experienced in a very distinct and I'm going to say instantly accessible way. And that's the flow. That is flow. And as we move into the mini retreat this weekend, we're going to take it into obviously the experience of energy, light, and information. So if you didn't snap that slide, don't worry, we'll put it up as a unit in the post Live and Learn. So you'll be able to refer back to it. But again, alignment allows for transformation and healing. And whether we participate in the organic state of flow or not, oftentimes, and I'm just going to quickly sum this part off, oftentimes we'll go for a run or we'll do what we consider to be the activity of flow, not with the conscious awareness that we're desiring to be in this alignment. It comes with agenda. It comes with whether it's diet or exercise or this sort of doing thing that we call life often. And yet, the wholeness of that which we are as universal intelligence, we are universal intelligence, knows. It knows. So that part of alignment is incredibly important. Fortunately, in reconnective healing, energy, light, and information bypasses the decision making of the temporal nature of thought and just expands the true nature of who we are more fully than our finite uh, uh, personality or situation or dilemma or whatever it may be. So let's go on.
Well, I was going to say, and sometimes we find ourselves in flow because a knowingness within us has allowed us to access it, as opposed to it requiring a conscious intention to do it. And I'm going to tell you, where one of the places I found that purely was when the reconnective healing frequency showed up. I found that when they reached to me, I received them, and in that, let's call it an alignment, a coming together, I discovered myself in that flow. And of course, once you touch flow, then you do often desire to come back again. And we do find it, like in that beautiful example of the violinist, or I just saw a beautiful movie about a violinist. I can't think of what it's called right now.
This
Or a
even
singer. There is a flow. Athletes, there's flow that we can find through intention, and yet really, I don't know that we fully access that flow, even if we're intending it, until we release the intention.
right.
I believe the flow state has no intention in it.
Well, and I want, for those of you familiar with reconnected healing, to recognize when we're playing this, even this movement is no different than going for a run, playing an instrument, painting. This isn't a technique. This isn't the execution of a modality. This is one of the ways that we become part of the experience of reconnective healing. Um, so
Think of it as how children disappear into their play.
yeah.
They don't follow their steps to intentionally disappear into their play.
So alignment, information, and flow. We're going to pack those three ideas and concepts together. And let's move into how we understand energy, light, and information as it appears in the reconnective healing experience.
Is that slide 2?
No,
Or is that,
that's
I
gonna,
lost number.
yeah,
Okay.
that's okay. You can, we're gonna, let's talk about it a little bit first, and then Cecilia will put up the last slide because
Okay.
it falls into that.
So right now, this sort of falls under synchronicity.
Right.
And I think that's really important, because that is how we experience it. Now, I went to, as you know, I tend to do, look to dictionary and thesaurus at some of the words for synchronicity, and they have some very gorgeous bases to them. Harmony, peace, accord, and these are things that we find in reconnective healing, which is gorgeous. It is of the experience of the energy, light, and information, energy, light, and information. Well, let's just say reconnective healing is the experience of it. Now, the next one that they put into synchronicity is coincidence, which is a funny kind of word because coincidence often implies something random and not connected. And I think that's why synchronicity has become so popular, because synchronicity has been used to bring the concept of alignment into coincidence. In other words, or bring synchronicity into coincidence. And when these all come together that way, then they no longer are used to be random. That's why I say sometimes we have to look at the baggage that people have attached to the words. It's not a baggage of the word itself, as much as it is a baggage sometimes assigned to it. So concurrence, to happen concurrently. Conformity. So here's my baggage. I back off conformity. What does that mean? We all have to wear the same uniforms and march to a band in the military or something. But really, when things conform together, they do come into a beautiful alignment, and it carries much beauty as much as the spontaneity. So is synchronicity coincidence that allows us to recognize the alignment in it, not the way we disregarded coincidence, but it's a way for us to see the alignment in coincidence itself.
So there's a little caveat that we want to,
Oh, I love caviar.
there's a little caveat that we want to throw into this, because when we look at the activity of coincidence, the behavior sometimes that comes up for us is to look at the sort of coincidence of synchronicity rather than synchronicity itself. And that attraction to coincidence as synchronicity. And let's take just the perfect example,
Wait,
you
just
drive,
give us a perfect example. The perfect example is the synchronicity and the coincidence of saying hello and goodbye to our YouTube people that
Oh,
Angela sent us, because I know you're joining us. So isn't that a coincidence and a synchronicity? We're really so glad that you joined us today. You're able to watch this part of it. And next time you do join us, it won't be Jillian and the frog. Hopefully it'll be Jillian and me with my voice.
so we'll see you. For those of you taking a sneak peek from YouTube, welcome, and come join us in the RLC if that feels appropriate for you. Okay, so back to the idea of coincidence and synchronicity. And we have a hand raising feature because we're on Zoom. If you consider synchronicity and coincidence to sort of follow a pathway, just do your hand raising thing here. Do you place the idea of synchronicity and coincidence sort of in the same part of, and I'm going to use the word phenomena at times, when you pull up to a huge, area and there's the perfect parking space right in front of the front door and it's snowing and it's just was waiting for you. Do you consider that coincidence? Or when you're
Hey there, family. Dr. Eric and Jillian here.
Welcome, everyone.
And we're very excited about Reconnective Life, our first online global community. This is the most exciting way we've been able to get together since I founded the Reconnection. It'll be a place where we can do things together. We'll move into breakout rooms at times when that's appropriate. We'll have energy interactions and meditations and exercises. In other words, expect things you haven't seen before.
You are so charged.
Things we
He is so lit about every new way we get to be together every day. Just be together. Let us just speak a little bit about what is going to be the shape of this community.
In this community, we can share and discover more. Here we can talk to each other, we can chat, we can learn from and about one another. Jillian, me, our life leaders, and you will be in daily conversation with you. Weekly, we will have Facebook Lives.
We will be with you every Wednesday. Sometimes it'll be just Eric. On occasion, it might just be me. Sometimes it'll be the two of us. It's all about giving you a way to look at the week living in the frequencies.
And in every fourth week, we will include a live Q&A, so we can talk about the things that have been coming up for us, discuss back and forth, share, grow, expand together.
And the ever-growing library of content that has been created over 20 years that will be on demand for you. It will be on-demand content for you to view, enjoy, share again with your inner circle.
And monthly, we are going to have live Zoom retreats. We're going to bring in some exercises and experiences and things that previously we've reserved for our physical retreats, when we were in the different location resorts and things. And we're modifying them so that we can work with these with you in your home, in your living room, in your den.
Put into the chat line, what is facility?
We're having these weekly Zoom in-depth Q&As.
Finally, they have a place and space to just define what does that really mean living in the frequencies.
This is something that is in all of us.
Everyone can do this.
It doesn't matter how many levels you've gone through or how well you know the programs. It's a community that allows us to recognize how interrelated we all are as receivers of energy, light, and information.
See you there.
Reconnective Life, living in the frequencies every day.